My name is Lindo. I go by LindoYes. I'm a spoken word poet. People will categorize my poetry as just like performance poetry or visual poetics, meaning that I'm just thinking about how visually people can see my poetry through just like different mediums. I'm drawn to a visual medium because I'm a big advocate for just like adults having picture books and just being someone that's dyslexic and knowing that like visual like things help me to digest words better. It always been a medium that I want to put my work because I want to be as accessible to people as possible. And also just like I'm big into like comic books and cartoons, so I'm just like always trying to think of just like how can I be in those spaces where I can share those conversations and hold those conversations with people that are into comic books, into cartoons, into animation. So, you know, challenging myself to just saying like, yo, I don't always have to put my poetry on page for it to sit with someone. And you know, that's what I'm constantly doing. My process with my craft is I always think of the visual first, and I feel like the poem comes about because I'm narrating everything that I'm seeing in my head. So it's easy for me to translate to, you know, putting in other media because I'm already starting off with the images in my head already. When I'm working on like comic books and I'm working on just like the cartoons and the short animation, I have to get across what I am seeing to the illustrator. So my audience has now went from two individuals that we have to then work in collaboration with each other to then present to a whole audience before it's even touched. And that is challenging for me, but also that is like a beautiful struggle because it then allows me to really tap into my work of just like, all right, I know I've been sitting with this poem for a minute, so I know all the images in my head that I'm narrating, but now I gotta like describe that to someone. It's that part that I love because in that collaboration, there's things I see in my head that when I'm talking to the illustrator, when I'm talking to the animator, that, you know, they're not always privy to, and they take on their own liberty of just creating the art that then comes out other stuff that I didn't even imagine. It's hard to say when an idea starts and finishes and when it's created, because even when I'm not in proximity to someone, I am in collaboration with them. So like, you know, the way I think about it is just like one of the things they teach you about like writing a paper is like cite all your sources. And that sounds cool in an academic way, but when you think about there's like not a phrase that you didn't hear from somebody else or you heard from a conversation and you should cite that. I also just like, I'm into the revolutionary act of rest. So when I do things in collaboration, I realize like I don't have to have this hustle mentality to hold all the work on my own. I can rest, I can do this in collaboration, and I can work together with other people so I can have relief, so I can be the best person I can be in any present moment. The machine keeps working because we oil it, and like resting and relaxing and not being productive sometimes is the oil to just like how this machine works. These spaces are here already and I'm just putting myself in them, you know, of these communal spaces of working together. You know, I'm a person that, you know, been dyslexic, you know, ever since I was diagnosed with it in like the first grade. Like I had a tough time telling the distinction between G and J or hearing the B and M sounds, or you know, sometimes I just get fatigued reading. It has never been an issue of just like comprehension, of just like, did I understand the content that I was taking and stuff like that. A lot of times when people ask me about like, yo, how is, you know, interacting with words on a regular basis and being dyslexic, I never think of it as a challenge. I just think of it as a different entry point of just like, sometimes people would prefer to hear a lecture out loud versus then they just to read the whole lecture. Sometimes I will prefer, like, I consume a lot of books, but all the books I consume are audiobooks. You know, this is my preference. Could I read a whole novel? Yes, I could read a whole novel. Do I prefer to? No, I just rather listen to 19 hours of it while I'm on a flight. One of the reasons why I was able to deal with my dyslexia because I wasn't the only person that was doing art that was dyslexic. So like me reading Octavia Butler and just seeing that someone that was dyslexic like I am, that was into sci-fi and fantasy, that was creating novels that were like 40 400 pages or even longer, and they were able to accomplish that work, made me feel more confident in the space that I want to occupy with my work, overcoming these challenges, overcoming this need to have accessibility, and knowing that I could still do this work because this work was done before me. It made me feel like this is a community space that is not just in my present, but also in my past that I'm concurrently always working with. And I feel as though, like, as much as I can make my art serve a community and the communal love that I experience in my community, the better my art sits with me every night, the better my art can serve people, and the better that my art can make these ideas that are put in these like forward things even more forward to lead to the progression that we need. And that's how I view my work. Is just like, man, if I can do a poem that can change the idea of what you had, so you can feel like, yo, I can be the change that I want to see, and I also can be a change agent, man, that's the communal work that I want to do.